Happy Easter, everyone. There are so many pieces of art to choose from to suit Easter Day. There are countless resurrections of Christ. So I did struggle a little bit to try and work out which painting I wanted to talk about. But actually, I've gone for this one, Titian's Noli tangere, do not touch me, it means. Because I wanted to focus on the role of Mary Magdalene. And I don't think there's any better Easter painting to consider than this sublime early Titian. Now, it was painted in around 1514, and for those of you who know Titian's work, it was painted before Bacchus and Ariadne, before all the poesy for King Philip II of Spain. So Titian at this point was a young artist. He was working in Venice, and he was just beginning to make a name for himself. It was before he just had this meteoric rise and became pretty much the most famous artist across the whole of Europe, working for popes and kings and courtiers, you name it, they all wanted a piece of art or two by Titian. So why do I love this early one so much? It's not just because of the Magdalene's role, but it's also for the quiet serenity of the painting, and it perfectly captures the Venetian preoccupation with landscape and how to implement figures within it. So first of all, let's talk about the narrative. It's a really amazing story. So finding the tomb of Christ empty, Mary Magdalene mistakes Christ for a gardener, and you can see here that he is holding a hoe to remind us of this aspect of the story. And the Magdalene implores the gardener to tell her where the body of Christ is. Christ then calls out Mary's name, and she recognizes him and reaches out towards him, as you can see she's doing here. And he responds by saying Noli tangere, asking her not to touch him because he has not yet ascended to his Father's house. And John tells us about this story in the Bible in his book, chapter 17. So let's just think about the Magdalene for a second. Poor old Mary Magdalene, she gets really very bad press. She's constantly referred to as a prostitute, but was she? How does anyone know this? The Bible only says that she had many sins, and of course we all do. We know that she became a companion of Christ and the disciples, one of his key followers. We know that she anointed his feet with oil at the Last Supper, hence the fact that her attribute, by the way, is very often a pot of oil, and you can see her holding this in her left hand. We know that she cried at the foot of the cross when Christ was crucified. But how much is made of this moment in the story? She is the very first person to see the resurrected Christ. I mean, it's a massive deal. And throughout history, she should have got an awful lot more credit for it. And if you think about it, it's a really hugely dramatic moment. And it's from this moment on that the drama kind of reverberates outwards to form the Christian faith. But Titian hasn't really chosen to show this drama. He's chosen instead to represent this as an intensely personal communion, if you like, between Christ and the Magdalene, with these two figures encased in this beautiful, quiet landscape. You can see that other people are going about their daily work. Can you see that man with his dog who's just pottering down the jagged path that leads down the hill? And then if you look behind Christ, you can see that the sheep are safely grazing in the field. Perhaps there's an allegory in there. No one, apart from the Magdalene, has yet felt the colossal impact of this moment. And there's just something so intimate about it and profoundly personal. The Magdalene here kind of helps us to remember about our personal communion with Christ. So let's think about the figure's relationship with the landscape. They're just so gorgeously entwined. And I just want to add at this point that no Florentine artist, not even Leonardo, would have been able to integrate these figures with the landscape so harmoniously. This was a brilliant Venetian concept that was really established by Titian and his master Giorgione. So let's start off by looking at that tree in the middle ground. Its function is to help our eye move from the foreground through the middle ground and into the background. It gives us this sense of depth and stabilization. But look at the angle of it. It's perfectly continuing the line of Mary's back. And you can see the shape of the branches and the leaves at the top re-emphasize the rounded forms of the Magdalene and her clothes, which have been caught in the wind. You can see that beautifully painted sleeve that's blustering in the wind. And I absolutely love that gradation of the white of her sleeve, which is closest to her arm, and then subtly moving into these pink tones as the soft fabric kind of flutters over the red of her dress. It's just so gorgeously painted. Then you can see that the curve of Christ's back continues up through the hill and the farm beyond. Let's think a bit more about the colours now. That very subtle blue shadow that can be found within Christ's shroud is picked up in the sky and the blue distant background. And the golden sunlight of Mary's hair is also re-emphasised by the flock of sheep in the background, the pathway that leads our eye to the top of the hill, the thatch on the distant buildings, and also the clouds in the sky. Our eye is not just led back by that tree in the midground, but also by these gorgeous lozenges of light and dark, shifting from lighter fields to darker trees, rhythmically taking our eye back until we have absorbed the whole of this painting. It's just so poetical and so Venetian in its poetry. Perhaps the only thing that really stands out here is that bold, striking red of the Magdalene's dress. Now, this is not just a chance colour that Titian has used to draw our eye to the Magdalene. It has a very direct purpose here. It's to remind us of the blood of Christ, and the fact that he was human when he was crucified, but he is now resurrected. It's just such a sublime painting. And for such an early Titian, painted, as I said, in around 1514, it provides us with a fantastic clue for the brilliance that is to come. So I hope you all have a happy Easter. And if you would like to look at some more of our films, please do have a look on our YouTube site. And for more about Artscapes UK, please visit our website www.artscapesuk.com. Thanks so much for listening.